I would like to spend just a couple of minutes to acknowledge all the efforts from the organizing committee. This would have not been possible without all the hard work. So I would like to ask the members of the organizing committee for today to stand up and please join me in giving them the greatest round of applause. Thank you so much. There was so much thinking, so much planning. As usual, this was a community effort in the PRL. So I'm really proud of everything that's been achieved. And now I would like to move to the next step of the evening, which is to hear from the past and the current directors. So here are all the PRL directors, and I would like to acknowledge Peter, who joined us tonight. Thank you so much for coming, Peter. And I would like to invite Ken to give 5 minutes, I was told 5 minutes, presentation.
Well, thanks, Federica, and to everybody who helped organize this, and to everybody who made all the travels to come here. For those of you who don't know, weren't keeping track of such things, I was director from January 1st of 1993 to October 31st of 2006, November 1. I just happened to look this up, so I was afraid my memory wouldn't be right when Mike Thomashow took over. So going with the theme of dividing it by decades, I was the last third of the 1990s and the first third of the 2000s was the period. And the other theme that sort of developed today was that there's been an evolution. Things change, and that's good. They have to change, or otherwise, if we had the same faculty members that we had back when I arrived, the PRL probably wouldn't exist. So we have to change. But there was a period during my term as director, there was an incredible turnover in the faculty. I just made a list of all of the faculty members, many of them, all of them outstanding scientists, but many of them super scientists, like Chris and Shauna Somerville left shortly after I arrived. Chris helped recruit me, and then I felt abandoned when he left a few months later. Hans Kende and Jan Zabart retired during my term as director. Natasha left for UC Riverside. Pam left. Ken Poff left the PRL at that time. And Lee McIntosh, unfortunately, passed away. So we lost an incredible array of outstanding faculty members, but they were rapidly replaced by an outstanding crew of new faculty members, including Shenyang He, Greg Howe, John Ping Hu, Rob Larkin, Veranda Montgomery, our current director, Federica Brandizzi, and Marcus Pauly. So that's quite an impressive an incredible collection of new faculty members to replace. And I think the time will tell. I think the new ones are filling the shoes of those stars that left very ably. The other thing that happened a lot, there was a lot of change. Oh, I wanted to say, the other person who joined the PRL during my time as director was Mike Thomashow. Mike had an offer from the University of Florida, as I recall, and there was some consternation about losing Mike to the University of Florida. So Hans Kendi and I got together and brainstormed about what we could do to retain. And one of the ideas was to move him from crop and soil sciences over to the plant research lab. That was an easy sell to the PRL faculty. They all agreed that that was a great idea. It was a little bit harder of a sell to the MSU administration, but they agreed. It was actually quite a tough sell to the DOE program officers. They thought this was not a good idea to be doing this, but we were persuasive, and the DOE program officers agreed to that, and I think history has proven that we were right. Mike was a tremendously valuable contributor to the plant research lab. The other place where there was a lot of change during my time as director was at the DOE. When I took over as director, Bob Rabson was the program officer. Many of you will remember Bob. I know Peter does very well. And a few years later, Bob retired, and then Greg Dilworth took over. And a few years later, Jim Tavares took over for Greg Dilworth. So there was a tremendous amount of turnover at DOE during those periods. And then finally, when Jim Tavares retired, there was sort of a crisis in the energy biosciences program at DOE. There was talk about closing that program. There was talk about closing the PRL. It was a near-death experience, I would say. So I know there's a lot of angst about conditions these days, but we had a lot of angst about conditions back then. But never fear, Mike Thomashow took over as director, and Bob Stack, who's here, took over as one of the program officers, and they worked together to reinvent the PRL in ways that I think are proving to be very effective. And I hope that there will be many more decadal anniversaries for the PRL to come celebrate. So thanks to everybody who came. Thanks to Mike, who took over as I stepped down as director. One final comment, just sort of a personal aside. Many of you know this, but my goal in stepping down as director was to spend the last few years of my career doing research and teaching. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. I jumped from the frying pan into the fire and became the science director of the Great Lakes Bioenergy Center, a task that was, well, made being director seem simple. So, Federica, back to you.
Okay, next up is Mike Thomashow.
I thought you said this was a 50-minute talk. I have my slides. Okay, so in 5 minutes, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about the time that I've served as director. And one of the thing that I hope comes across is that it was one of the most meaningful times in my professional career. The PRL the faculty was faced with a major challenge in rethinking how we were going to operate the PRL. And, you know, it could have been a time where people would get discouraged and no, they gathered together, they said, all right, let's meet this challenge, and they did. And it was just an incredible, to be a part of that was wonderful. So anyway, so in 5 minutes, well, I guess 4 minutes now. So in 1986, I came here, okay? I came into the Department of Crop and Soil Science and Microbiology, and we started up a new line of research, and that was on freezing tolerance in plants, which was a little odd because I had no formal training in plant biology. I had never worked on freezing tolerance in plants, and I also wanted to use Arabidopsis as a model system, and the crops department said, huh, what's the deal? Anyway, that, it came to be, they made the job offer, and I need maybe 6 minutes. I never could have done that without the PRL, and Barry Chelm brought the position to, I was talking to Barry Chelm at a Gordon conference. Barry Chelm was the same age as me, and we were at a Gordon conference, and I explained my situation. I said, you know, Barry, I want to change my fields. I want to work on this new area, but I don't have blah, blah, blah. He said, well, you know, Mike, there's a job that's coming open at MSU in the crops department, but there's the PRL, and we talked about everything. I thought, whoa, this just fits perfectly. And so we started up I got the job offer. We started up this new line of research, and we were reasonably successful with it, and that only could have occurred because of Barry first and then the PRL supporting, providing environment in which we could address the questions we wanted to address. Anyway, that's on a personal side. So we're here, started freezing tolerance, and that was also an incredible experience. I don't know how many of you got to hear today, but I had Malia Guillen give her talk today. I've just had this incredible group of students and postdocs that came through the lab that made all of that possible. And again, wow. So in the PRL, in the year 2000, Ken comes to me and says, hey, Mike, would you like to join the PRL? And I go, would I like, duh, would I like to join the PRL? And just explain just a little bit about what some of the problems with that is that there had never been an internal hire from MSU faculty into the PRL, and there had been sort of an unwritten rule that with MSU and with DOE that no, you don't do internal hires. So again, I owe the credit to Ken and to Hans and to others to make that possible to become a member of the PRL, which was fabulous. We moved into the PRL building, plant biology building, and things are going great. And then 2006 rolls around, and Ken is saying, I mean, as you know, he was like you were in your third term, 5-year term of being director of the PRL. And the PRL was just amazingly successful under his leadership. And I want to just say one thing about the model system, because this is going to come up. The model at that point was, the whole charge to the PRL was to hire the best people in a wide variety of areas, have them interact with each other, but run individual programs that were at the cutting edge of those areas of science and bring molecular approaches to new molecular approaches. And that's exactly what was going on. It was just fabulous, the kind of science that was going on, and Ken was leading that effort. And so everything was great. And in 2006, he comes up and says, well, he wanted to step down to do other things, okay? And so they came to me and said, would you be willing to be the director? And I said, whoa, I can barely run my lab. How am I going to run be director of the PRL? And then I thought about it, and they said, well, look, Mike, it's running great. All I have to do is do this for a couple of years, because the thing was, when Ken wanted to step down, for a variety of reasons, we couldn't go outside at that point. So I thought, okay, I could be director for a couple of years. Just don't screw it up. Everything is going great. And you can get through a couple of years, and then there'll be a new director that comes in, and it'll be great. Okay, that was the plan. And then we came to our first renewal, and that went okay. But as Ken was saying, a lot of changes were happening in BES. Personnel changes and also different challenges to the BES program. And Bob Stack was one of the new people in the program. And at one of the annual meetings, he calls me aside and says, Mike, I got to talk to you tonight. Okay. Ooh, that sounds, okay, let's talk. Where are you, Bob? Where's Bob? Hey, buddy. Yeah. So he said, okay, we gotta have a talk. All right. And with Gail McLean also there, and there were some others. And so they said to me, hey, Mike, you know, the PRL has been great. I mean, it's been great for 30 years. You could do cutting edge science, it's just fabulous. But you know, we have new challenges, and we've been thinking about it and stuff, and you know, the model that you guys have really doesn't quite work for our future, and so it's been great, and you know, I'm glad to say it's been great. And so I knew what that meant. And I'm sitting there and said, well, don't screw it up. And great, in office for 2 years, and no more PRL. Whoa, so get on the plane, go home, don't sleep. And Bob and I said, okay, well, let me talk to you in 48 hours. Okay. So we call a meeting of the emergency meeting of the faculty. We all get together, and I explained, I said, the model, which has been so successful, is not one that really works for BES into the future. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about some of the things that I heard from Bob and Gail and some others, and thought that, you know, what we could reshape ourselves, and what we could do is form teams that address themes that were of critical importance to BES. And brought that up to the faculty, and I walked out of the room and didn't know what was going to happen. And then I heard from Ken, hey, it looks good, and so come back in there. And that's what I was saying in the beginning. We had this challenge, and the group just came together and said, all right, let's do this thing. And so I called Bob and said, Bob, what about teams addressing themes that are of critical importance to BES? He goes, well, you know, Mike, maybe we could work with that. And that started an interaction, and they gave us 3 years to try to do something new, okay? And so the PRL got to work, and what we did was we had 3 projects. We had project A, B, and C. And the two projects were in energy production and focusing questions in the area of photosynthesis per se, and also CO2 fixation. And project A was mechanistic in nature. Project B was more physiological, and how those mechanisms would work, and the interaction, the physiology, biochemistry with the mechanisms. And in Project C, all of this energy production is occurring in the environment, right? And so the question was, how does the environment have an impact on this research, okay? So we had projects A, B, and C. We knew we needed to hire some new people to fill in things, so we made 2 great hires, and that was Dave Horvath, who was an expert in photosynthesis and also coming up with new technical ways of addressing questions there, and also Cheryl Kerfeld in CO2 fixation. And anyway, we had our 3 projects. We wrote a grant renewal, and we presented that to Bob and the group. And I was sitting in the audience, and this project A comes up, and Dave explains it, and he has other people talking about it, and then project B, Cheryl, and explains that project, and people working on it, and then Greg is there, project C, and I'm sitting there, and it was like, this couldn't be any better. I mean, this was unbelievable, the science that was going on, this transformation. And I have to admit, I tried to make some closing remarks, went outside, broke down. People were walking by going, do we need an ambulance for this guy? What's going on here? Anyway, so we then got the reviews back, and the reviews were wonderful reviews. And it was just an incredible experience to be part of this, where the faculty came together, and Bob and people at DOE, I mainly work with Bob, come up with a new way that would work for everybody. And it was just a fabulous experience. So we got the renewal. Things are looking good. We have the new model, but it's in the beginning, right? I mean, it's like, planting seedlings out there, and the seedlings are coming up, okay? And so we knew we needed to make sure those seedlings developed well, and there was some other places over here where, well, we need to have some more plants planted over here. And so we needed, that now was 10 years into this, and we needed a new director that could take care of that plot, right? Get those seedlings and make sure they're growing and plant some more stuff. And that's when we went out, and we were incredibly fortunate to have Christoph come to take over that next chapter. And so, Christoph, and
okay. I'm going to have a little speak sheet here. So, Mike gave the introduction to me taking over. So we had a 50th anniversary when I became PL director, and I fully believe that that's all credit to Mike Thomashow. I think he brought the PL back from the brink. So I was actually at this famous DOE PI meeting where Mike was told by Bob what was up, and I saw him run around, and there was David Kramer at his poster, and Mike came over and said, hey, what about this guy? Should we bring this guy in? So, and he asked me about him, and I think I had just been to Washington State and talked to Dave and knew a little bit about him, and yeah, sure, man, if you want to do photosynthesis, that's the person, okay? And so eventually Dave was hired, and Cheryl Kerford, as Mike said, and they both have HANA chairs, and that's not a trivial thing to get at MSU. And so I'm sure Mike and Ken and Hans and everybody involved had something to do with that. And then, of course, Danny Ducat got hired, okay, another person that fit the themes. And when I took over, so I was a new person at the PL. Of course, I had been at the PL in 1986 as a PhD student, and you've seen some pictures here today, and I'm sure there's a lot more out there. And actually, so I was from the biochemistry department, so I wasn't in the PL, so hiring people from within MSU is not the exception anymore, and is actually okay. And we brought in Tom Sharkey, who was another photosynthesis person who could complement what was going on at the PRL and strengthen the core of the PRL. And so what happened was refocusing required essentially a redistribution of resources, and it wasn't really equitable, okay? And that was when equitable was still a word. So, so some moved on and some adapted. So Shenyang He eventually moved on, and so did Barona Montgomery, and Jonathan Walton could not adapt, but he also then got sick and passed away during the first year when I was there. And several PL faculty members went on and founded the PRI, including Mike, Greg, Brett Day, and let's see, who else? Yeah, Shenyang, of course. Yeah. So they founded the PRI, and I was, when I did my interview, I had this grand idea about climate change is a big deal, and we have to work towards that end. And I didn't know anything about PRI, Plant Resilience Institute, trying to do the exact same thing. So, but and then the PRI became PRI, and the PRL the PRL, and it's really hard to distinguish, you know, those two. And it's kind of okay, just try to stay calm, you know, everything will work out fine. So everything worked out grand, okay? So eventually we will move into the same building and share space, so there's new opportunities there. So the other thing that happened at the time, so there were lots of resources put into the PRL which caused some tension outside the PRL, and it was necessary by MSU to keep the PRL alive. And so money was spent on a phenotyping facility that David Kramer developed, et cetera, et cetera. And so my job basically then was, the way I saw it, you know, to make sure that PRL is well integrated into the community. So community engagement became a thing the last 10 years. And one thing that went by the wayside in the restructuring was the support for graduate students directly by the PRL. So I had graduate students not being in the PRL that were PRL graduate students funded by the PRL, which was a fantastic thing, and I'm really grateful for that. And Eric Mullering is one of those guys, okay? And there were other ones. And so I figured it was really important that we make a push in the direction of molecular plant science education. So one of the conditions for me to take over the PRL as a director was that I got resources and the backing by the administration to found the molecular plant science program, which was a really challenging task because we had tried this before, and what it meant was having 2 colleges, 6 departments come together and agree on an academic program here. And we made it work, and so thanks to Rebecca Grummett, Dina Lapena, Kathy Osteryoung, Carol Wood, Jonathan Walton, who was also the first director, and Brad Day, and especially Associate Dean Rich Schwartz, we made it possible to create this molecular plant science program, and there's a lot of students here that are actually participants in that now. And Jumping, who is the current director and is doing a fantastic job. Okay, so, and then the other thing we did is create shared lunchrooms and video conferences rooms, so it'll be more communal within the plant biology building, building up relationships with plant biology in general. And Danny Schnell was one of the colleagues and the chair of plant biology with whom I had a great relationship. And so, let me see, another thing that we emphasized was science communication and outreach. And so we hired Igor Huat, the first communication manager, and then Kara Hadley, who is sitting here. And they all did a fantastic job. So before we had these guys working for us, I don't think the PL was very well known within DOE BES. Bob, can you listen? Hey, Bob, I want you to confirm this. Before we had science communication going, the PL wasn't well known within the DOE. And then one year, about year 3 after Igor Huat was there, he was writing science stories, and they got posted on the DOE BS website, and one year, I swear to God, we had like 60, 70% of the stories came from the PRL on that DOE BS website, and everybody knows the PRL now within the DOE, I think. Is that correct, Bob? Okay, thank you. Okay, so science communication is really important, particularly in current times, and I can't emphasize that enough. To me, that was very important, and Karen and I worked very closely together and tried to make this happen. So then we continued hiring new faculty that were synergistic with the mission of the PL and aligned with the mission of DOE BS, and those were Berkeley Walker and Josh Vermaas, and then Daniela Strenkert, and now the latest hire is Rebecca Rosten, who will join us next year. I think. Has she signed yet? Working on it. Okay. Anyway, so this also basically led to a new age. So Josh Vermaas didn't need a wet lab. Okay, he's the first person entirely computational, and as far as I'm concerned, you know, he's been a fantastic asset to the PL and rung in the new era of AI, et cetera, okay? So this is where the future is, in my opinion. Okay, and then in the middle of my tenure, COVID-19 hit, which was another basically crisis, okay? I mean, we had never seen that before, that we had to shut down, go home and do nothing, okay? Or do stuff from home. During that time, I worked very closely with Denny Schnell. So Denny and I wanted to get the building going as quickly as possible. And so we wrote the blueprint for the procedures to reopen the labs. And so we were able to, we were closed down in March and we were sort of open again in June. And that was, because we made a big push. And while we were sitting in one of those meetings, Mike Thomashow sent me a text message or an email saying, hey, Greg Howe was just elected to the National Academy of Sciences. And that happened in 2020. So Greg couldn't go to the ceremony because of COVID and had to wait for a year to do that. And then during that time also, Sarati and I talked a lot about various things, and we needed a representative on the DEI committee for the college. And out of those discussions, et cetera, the CBOC got started somehow, the Community Building and Outreach Committee, which I'm very proud about that how this has happened. It was a grassroots movement. Lots of students and lots of postdocs are involved in it, and it's got its life on its own, and to me, it's really fantastic. And it's an example of how the PRL people come together and work and put something up that wasn't there before and is good for the community. So then David Kramer, who helped rebuild the PRL, then became the director of the Ingenhaus Institute in Wageningen and left the PRL. And with that, basically a new era starting. Federica is the new director and taking over from there. I stepped down, so I'm no longer PL director since August 15, and I have other plans. And before I step off the stage here, I want to thank a couple of people who, especially the staff, and foremost Linda Denhoff and Melissa Boris. So without them, I couldn't have done my job efficiently. So this was really important. And so Linda would come in the mornings to my office and tell me all the crap that happened during the night, the water main breaks. And so one day I think it was a holiday, and she texts me, hey, a huge pipe broke in the basement. You have to go over there. I'm on a boat in whatever lake over there. So I went down there. There was a huge flood in the basement. Normally, Linda would take care of it. And so these are the kinds of things that Linda and now Melissa in the future will be helping the new director with, and it's really, really important. And then we have, of course, the Eunice. Is Eunice still here? Oh, there she is. And Darlene is the new Eunice. So she was not only the office manager, but also acted as my assistant, ran my calendar, and I thank you very much for that. And I know you're moving on, and Darlene will take over or has taken over, and I think things will be great. Okay, and then of course our trustee accountant, Carrie Morris, and then when I started the job, I insisted on program administrators for the MPS program, a position. Heather Sharek did this for a long time, and now Jeffrey Jerziak is doing this. Is he here? No. Jeffrey left, okay. And then Brian Mosley, the IT guy, and Tyler and Andrew Henriksen, and I think Ryan is here. Ryan? Thank you very much. The other guys, is Tyler here? No. Yeah, he had a young baby, or his wife had, and he had to run home. And then, of course, Adam, Jake, and Pete, the guys from the machine shop. Okay, are they here? Is anybody here? What? Well, Linda made them help and set up, and, and then they got sent home. Anyway, I'm really grateful for these people, and they're actually instrument makers, and they're building instruments. They're not just fixing guys. They're built instruments, and you should take full advantage of them. And finally, I'd like to thank Susanna, my partner and spouse. So she has taken a lot of hits in her career for making it possible for me to have a fabulous career in all regards. And so now is the time that we go off and do stuff together that has nothing to do with science, and most of you know about our plans, and so we will hopefully spend a couple of or many years going traveling and exploring outside of science, and we won't leave science, but we do maybe a different kind of science, and we'll have a different type of office that's well connected by the internet, and Robert is helping me to gear it up. And so with this, I would like to thank everybody for coming and sticking around, and hope, and I know that we have the future. The PIL is in good hands with Federica, even though we are right now in another crisis, I would say. Okay, every 5 years some crap happens, you know. But I'm trusting the PIL that we are very nimble and very flexible, and it's the faculty, it's the postdocs, and it's everybody on the staff, and I think we can pull together and get through anything here. So thank you very much.
So here we are, the future. So for those of you that don't know this, I joined the PRL almost 20 years ago. So I saw the PRL version 0.1 and now version 0.2, let's say. And I have to say, I love both. And maybe the PRL 0.2 put us even closer together. The model was different before. We all had as PIs, our projects. We would collaborate, and we would try to make sure that the core values of the PRL, training, doing excellence in science, would be fulfilled. But really, ultimately, having to work towards the goal that BS wanted from us put us together in a very, very unique way. And I was so fortunate to experience that as a director, just, let's say, a few months leading to the last review that we had last week. And I saw students and postdocs working with each other, PIs listening to talks over and over again to make sure that they were borderline perfect. And I saw really people cheering each other up. And today, and I hope you felt that through all the talks that we had. There is an enormous love for the PRL, right? This institution is what brings us to work and to do excellent science, and what keeps us together as a community. Now, I don't know what the future brings us, like it's true, every 4 years, I would say there is a crisis in this country, but, no, every 5, but hey, but one thing I know is that the PRL will always be united, okay? We always have our core values, our core principles, and it amazes me every day. So thank you, never change. And please join me in raising your glass, whatever is in that glass, and let's toast to the next 10 years at least, okay? Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Don't we have something? I have videos, guys. So as you know, not everybody could make it, but we have some
Greetings to all of you at PRL.
some people that have really generously donated 2 minutes of that time, and their time, 2 minutes, to express their love and thought towards the PRL.
Greetings to all of you at PRL and happy 60th anniversary. I'm John Scandalius. I was one of the first 9 faculty PRL members who came to Michigan State in 1965, and we were located in the then new biochemistry building and watched the PRL. And in those days, it was the AEC MSU PRL laboratories being constructed across the street. Then in 1966, we moved into the new facilities and the spacious laboratories, and the work ensued from there and continues to this day by new members, yourselves. And I wish all of you at the PRL a very happy and productive 60th anniversary and many more productive and rewarding years ahead. Warmest best wishes, and have a great celebration. Thank you. Bye.
My name is Chris Somerville. My wife, Shauna, and I were professors in the PRL from 1982 until 1993 when we moved to Stanford. When we arrived in 1982, we had a strong interest in developing Arabidopsis as a model, and the PRL was a very, very congenial and supportive place. The other faculty were really very helpful, and we attracted a large group and made a lot of discoveries there. It was a very exciting time, and I think back to it with tremendous fondness. It was just a perfect place for us at that time, and we're still friends with the people who were in our lab at that time and with the surviving faculty. And I hope the PRL is still today the way it was when we were there. And I'm sorry I can't be there, but I wish you, congratulations on the 60th anniversary. Bye.
Hello, everyone. I want to send my congratulations to you on the 60th anniversary of the PRL. I'm Seung-Yang Hee. I was a faculty member there from 1995 to 2020. So literally spent the best part of my scientific career in the PRL. Directors during my time were Ken Keegstra initially, Mike Thomashow, and Christoph. What can I say? It was such a wonderful and exciting time for my lab and me. PRL, as you know, has a distinct culture that demands not only high quality performance, but also at the same time provide a really nurturing, creative, and collaborative academic atmosphere. As I travel around the world nowadays, I bump into many PRL alumni. I keep being reminded how wonderful and precious it is to be a member of the extended PRL family. So I wish everyone there having a great time as you travel the memory lane of your time in the PRL at MSU and in East Lansing. All the best, everyone.
My name is Tom Sharkey. I was a technician in the PRL from 1974 to 1976, a graduate student from 1976 to 1979, and returned as a professor in 2017, retiring this year on June 30th. What strikes me the most about the PRL is the esprit de corps among the graduate students and the postdocs. They make for a very vibrant community and a very pleasant place to work and a great place to get good science done.
Hello, friends and colleagues from the PRL. My name is Marcus Pauli and I was faculty at the PRL from 2005 until the end of 2009. What was my favorite moment at the PRL? There are many to name, but the overarching theme was really a sense of community. Just think about the Christmas party. That really makes you feel home. Also scientifically, I had a great time. Collaborations with the late John Walton, with the Brandizzi lab, my dear Federica, and of course also with Ken Keegstra. Our research aligned very well in the cell wall field, and working with him and his team really propelled my research forward. And so with that, I wish you a happy 60th birthday and all the best for the next 60 years.
And again, I thank you so much for coming. I know some of you traveled very far, and some of you have work to do in the lab tomorrow. But again, thank you so much. It was a great day, I hope, for all of you. And let's really look towards what we can do next together. Thank you, guys.